Welcome to the BVTV Network, coming to you from the UK studios of BizVision. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. Now, this is episode 3 in the BVTV Impact Networks Trilogy with expert and author David Ehrlichman. Hello for the final time, David.
Hello there.
I am thoroughly enjoying my conversation with you because, as I've said in my opening piece, I've worked with them for many years in networks, and I've never really understood what was going on because I was too busy getting on with organizing the network. But let's talk about being an impact network leader. I've done the leadership role, as I've said many times, in tourism, hospitality, manufacturing, and run CEO executive boardrooms and so on. And it can be tiring and frustrating and almost like herding cats at times. What in your mind makes for both a good and a poor impact network leader?
Many people assume that networks like this just happen, that people will self-organize spontaneously. And while that can happen, it's fairly rare, and really spontaneous self-organization only goes so far. The truth is that leadership always matters. It's just a different form of leadership than the one we see in hierarchical environments. Rather than defining rigid structures and roles, network leaders are nurturing a culture of reciprocity. Instead of command and control, it's all about connection and collaboration. And essentially, they're not there to tell people what to do, but to foster self-organization and to support people to discover what they can do together.
Yeah. So the definition of leader in this case would a bit more of a chairperson rather than, should we say, a CEO?
I think that's more appropriate. You could also call them a facilitator, steward leadership, servant leadership, level 5 leadership. There are different names that have been used. Adaptive leadership, facilitative leadership. It's the form of leadership that's not directive, again, not telling people what to do, but really seeding a vision for change, inspiring the networks to form, helping people to clarify their shared purpose and to cultivate connections. And really, they demonstrate an incredible amount of care for the network. They take responsibility to nurture its growth and consistently anticipate its needs and challenges, but they also share that responsibility completely with others.
Excellent. Yeah. Now, I think that leaders, that, as I found out myself, have a bit of a challenge in as much as they think, well, I've got to be pushing all the time. I've got to be pushing all the time. But what actually, in many cases, people want are the individual conversation with the leader, don't they?
Mm-hmm. One of the errors that some networks make initially is trying to set out some really clear objectives from the very beginning before people have even had a chance to get together and have conversations together and make sense of what's going on. Those are often the networks that are driven by, a single person or a single organization, and the other folks are forced into it rather than coming on their own volition. So the key is we can start with a high level purpose of why we're gathering together, but ultimately it's by bringing our different perspectives together, the different expertise we have in different areas. We're seeing the problem in different ways. We can bring those different perspectives together to create a shared understanding of the big picture. And then from that, we can identify places where there's energy and opportunity to move forward collectively. And that will determine our path.
Yeah. One of the lessons I learned, I got told off a couple of times, but one of the lessons I learned is that networks don't want to have the same old. They're constantly wanting new, and they're coming there to be fed new. Do you agree?
I do agree. You can think of it energetically, kind of visualize it like a solar system. People are coming together around some shared cause, and as they have really interesting conversations and start to move forward action, it creates this energetic frequency. And over time, if it's same old, the energy starts to dissipate, and those conversations become more infrequent. Nothing's happening as much. So you have to continually kind of spin the ball on your finger and keep the momentum going, continually pushing the edge. People are wanting to show up because they want to see what happens next, not just another meeting of updates and regular agendas.
Yeah. I totally take that last point there, not just to the meeting, because if I've had to attend networks beforehand instead of just leading them, and the leaders sort of gone into the typical meeting agenda. So we'll just go over the minutes of the last network and any other business. And that's not what it's about, is it?
That's right. The time we have together is so precious. We should really take advantage of what that means. We can give updates and presentations asynchronously. People can do that on their own time. Yeah. When we're actually together in the same space, whether that's in person or virtually, take advantage of it, create connections between people, draw on the wisdom from the room. Everybody's an expert in something. So really use that time to create connections and spark different conversations that people don't normally have with people they don't normally have them with.
Yeah. So I urge those people who want to be network leaders, not only to get David's book, but also to pop along to the website, which you'll see the details in a minute, to look for the toolkit, because there's a lot of help, isn't there, David, for leaders in the toolkit?
There's a lot of free resources in the toolkit, facilitation guides, some of our favorite exercises. There's also different training offerings we have for network leaders on our website, converge.net/trainings. And so I urge you to take a look at those. They may be useful for you.
Yeah, fundamental. And based upon my experience, I was lucky that I managed to get away with it. I wish I'd had David's book at those particular times. Now, thanks, David. Now, let's give viewers and listeners details of your URL, your website address, which is obviously, viewers, you can see on the screen behind me. But for listeners, let me spell it out. It's all the W's, Converge, CONVERGE, converge.net. Now, David's book, this one is called Impact Networks, Create Connection, Spark Collaboration, and Catalyze Systemic Change. It's published by BK, that's Berrett Kohler Publishers. And David's also producer of the documentary Short Impact Networks, Creating Change in a Complex World, which goes live around the world on the 1st of February.
And that documentary features interviews from 6 network leaders around the world, really telling their stories of how they have done this hard work of bringing people together for a common purpose.
That sounds excellent. And we get hold of it, we watch it at where?
Converge.net/film.
Excellent, got it. English poet John Donne, writing in the 17th century, famously wrote that no man is an island. If he was around today, I would expect him to further that by endorsing belonging to a number of networks. If you read David's book, I'm sure he'd further add that as Impact Networks. Thanks, David, for a great trilogy.
Thank you, Malcolm, for having me. It was a pleasure.